Super Rugby power rankings for round number 10. Numbers are in. I've done the calculations. Again, pretty dynamic. That was the whole point of me adjusting the formula for this year to make them slightly more dynamic, to give a bit more credit to the recent results rather than the past ones. They are perhaps a bit too dynamic for my liking. I see some of the results and one of them in particular, when I get to it, I'll reference it. Had me kind of cursing my screen as if, are you kidding me? But with curse words. So, we'll go through these rankings. You guys can let me know your thoughts on how accurate you think they are. I question that a wee bit myself, but hey, we'll get there and we'll see where we go. In 15th for another week, I don't have much to say here aside from another loss. The Sunwolves kind of threatened to do better than they have been doing. They're good for 40, but they're not good over 80. The Sunwolves have still just got the 2 wins. They are falling behind everybody else. It was a hell of an entertaining game they had against the Hurricanes, but it was another lead that's gone down the drain, and it is another loss, unfortunately. Next, same as last week. Despite the fact that they got a win, the Highlanders remain in 14th. I will say, though, that their win over the Blues, albeit at home, they haven't not given them any credit for it. It has just pulled them closer to 13 rather than 15, because they were in pretty dire straits up until their most recent result. So they are now well away from the Sunwolves and not too far away from catching up everybody else. Next, and this is down 4 spots, are the Sharks. Now, they've basically had 2 atrocious results in a row, and I don't know what else to say about them. They can play really well, but man, are they playing bad in recent weeks. 3 of their last 4 games are now losses, so that's pretty bad for Sharks fans. I'm sure they are feeling the frustration over there in Durban. Next, the Chiefs. So last week it was kind of an all Aussie, not all, but largely Aussie themed bottom row. This week's a couple of Kiwi teams, an Aussie conference team and a South African team, but no actual Australian teams. So the Chiefs are down 4 spots. Their good run of 3 wins has been ended, and it was at home, and it was a pretty poor result for the Chiefs. Just when things were looking up, they lost guys like Harris and Retallick and Damien McKenzie to injury, and they paid the price for it there, so they are back down 4 spots. Another New Zealand team, the Blues, are a big mover this week, down 6 spots. That's 2 losses in a row. That's more spots than I would have liked them to drop, but they lost last week, and they didn't drop much, but that's kind of 2 in a row, and they're starting to add up. They don't look good away from home. I mean, the result against the Chiefs wasn't all that bad, but with that Lions win, it kind of puts that into context a wee bit. So, it's not very good from the Blues. Winning away from home in New Zealand is something that still eludes them, and they are down 6 places. Next, in 10th, the Stormers. The Stormers are down 3 spots. Now, the Stormers are just like, we finally got a win away from home. Things are on the up. Oh no, let's erase all of that good work with a poor loss at home. So, what can you say about the South African Conference? It is just the flip of a coin at the moment. Nobody knows what's going on there. I don't think South African fans know what's going on, because nobody's able to string any series of results together. The Stormers are equally part of that. Next, the Waratahs, pretty big winners this week. They are up 4 spots. They played the top-ranked Aussie team, and they managed to beat them. It was at home, so you kind of put that into a bit of context and say it wasn't like they went into Melbourne and got a win, but it was a win. To keep the Rebels in check, I think all the other Aussie conference teams are giving them a big thank you for that result. So Yeah, that Aussie conference kind of remains open until somebody can run away with it. Speaking of the Rebels, they are down. They are in 8th, down 4 spots. So over their last 6 games, it's 2 wins and 4 losses. Because they had those 2 losses over in South Africa. They came back home and got a couple of wins. And now it's 2 losses on the trot. So Stormers and Waratahs. So over that recent kind of course, it's worse than it is good. So that's kind of reflected in the rankings. Whether they are going to really knuckle down and become that top Aussie team, I'm starting to have my doubts. I really thought they would perform better than they did in the last couple of weeks. But consistency is not there for them at the moment. They did have issues like that last season, and perhaps that hasn't quite been addressed. Up are the Brumbies this time. They are up 5 spots, which is massive. Over their last 5, they are kind of at evens. They've had a bye, and they had 2 losses, but they've also had 2 most recent wins, and a big one away from home. So, kind of give them that credit on form. They seem to be a pretty good runner. They didn't have a whole lot of ball in that game. Their most recent one, Rory Arnold, looked pretty good. So if they can maintain that kind of defensive effort, they may pick up more results. But 7th is pretty high. We'll see if they can go kind of 3 in a row. I would imagine it's been a while since the Brumbies have done that. Hog Juarez away is going to be tough. Next, and up 5 spots, are the Lions. As I said, nobody knows what's going on with the South African teams. The Lions somehow managed to go into Hamilton and get a pretty dominant win. They did let the Chiefs score a few points towards the end, but a lot of their big guys stood up in that game. Having Warren Whiteley back was certainly helpful. So their recent record did have 2 away losses, but they've got a big away win, strong away win, so give them a bit of credit there. Will they drop 6 spots next week? Probably, because they're going to play the Crusaders. But if you lose to the Crusaders, you don't give teams too much kind of penalty, because that is a pretty tough place to play. But I'm still not convinced about the Lions or the Brumbies, to be fair, but recent wins bumped them up. Next, and this is the one that had me cursing. Are you kidding me? Was my initial reaction. But the Reds. And it's not all that often that I have to go back and look at my data to make sure I didn't miscalculate something. But of their last 6 results, 4 of them are wins. Who would have thought that about the Reds? I suppose not me. So perhaps I should be giving them a bit more credit. Winning away from home in South Africa when they were totally written off. Man, keep it up, Brad Thorne. Whatever you're doing, it seems to be working. His contract's been extended, perhaps rightly so. I know there are still some Reds fans who are still kind of less than pleased about the way he kind of got rid of some of the big names, but he's not about big names, he's just about big tackles. So whatever he's doing at the moment is paying off. Next, and into 4th, and somehow, I still haven't updated the logo, up 2 spots, despite being on the bye, is the Hog Juarez. So, of their last 5, they've got 2 wins away, they've had 2 byes, and they've had 1 loss. So, it's been an interesting few weeks for the Hog Juarez. They've kind of had byes last weekend, 5 weeks ago. So, they're mainly benefiting from the fact that the 2 teams above them last week, initially, like directly above them, were the Blues and the Rebels, and they both lost. So, congratulations, Hog Juarez. You're up without really having to do anything. Likewise, the Bulls, they were on the bye. The teams directly below them were the Blues and the Rebels, who lost. So the Bulls stay where they are on the bye. The Hurricanes are still in number 2. And let's just say they weren't that impressive against the Sunwolves. They managed to get the win. It was away from home, but if anybody was looking at that result thinking these guys are going to run away with Super Rugby, you must have been watching a different game from what I saw. If you were thinking Hurricanes to visit Christchurch for Super Rugby final, is anyone's money going to be on the Canes at the moment? Probably not. The Crusaders still look a cut above pretty much everybody else, but Still, credit to them for coming back and getting a win. I will not take anything away from them for that. Crusaders are number 1. Nobody looks like dislodging them at the moment. They are still very much ahead of everybody else. They had a bye. Rest and recovery for them. If they're only going to get better, watch out rest of the competition, because the Crusaders, they just look really good. They do have a home game, I think, this week, and then eventually they're on tour of South Africa in May. So, those games are going to be interesting, because they are playing the Bulls, and the Bulls look pretty good. So I'm very keen to see a full-strength Bulls side go up against the Crusaders. I talked about it before, because I am looking forward to that. So those are the power rankings. Some teams really plummeting, some teams jumping up, some inconsistent teams are kind of on an upward swing. I will not be surprised if they suddenly dip back down. Highlanders perhaps going to make their way back up. Sharks has kind of had an all new low, but you guys let me know your thoughts on the rankings, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.